Film Fans YouTube, hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh, the Movie Apprentice, and today I continue my watch through of the Masters of the Air Apple TV Plus series with episode number 4. And as I predicted last week, this episode is very much a more grounded, personal story as opposed to an all-out action episode. But how does this one live up to what we have seen so far? Well, let's get right into it. But before I get into that, if you like what you're seeing on the channel, click the like button and subscribe for more video reviews of movies and TV shows coming all the time. This episode has two stories. The first one following Bailey and Quinn as they attempt to get their way to Spain in order to get back to the UK and back into the fight whilst avoiding capture from the Germans. And we also have Bucky Egan, who is currently going through a stressful period and is granted a couple of days leave just to let off some steam, as the show really focuses on the psychological effect it is starting to have on the men flying through these missions. Flak happy is a term that is used a fair bit in this episode. Basically goes into the idea that the pilots that have been going through all this flak for all this time, it is slowly affecting them mentally, the early signs of PTSD. It really focuses on the aspect of things. The episode starts out with a celebration party because one of the forts have completed their 25 mandatory missions. So they are actually able to now go home. They have done their duty, they have done their job. And it's really starting to affect Bucky Egan as he is starting to go through a stressful period. There's a nice little scene where he has a tense exchange with one of the superiors, and even one of the superiors is starting to show signs of some flak happiness. That exchange is what leads to Bucky having to take a couple of days off in London. And as usual with these sorts of episodes where a soldier takes time away, they have a few drinks, they meet a pretty lady, they sleep with them, they have a conversation, but he also gets to experience what it's like to be on the receiving end of these bombing raids and even see some of the aftermath of what happens after a bombing raid has been completed. So that is going to start to mess with him a bit further going into future episodes. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to look forward to. I feel like the way that we had two stories play out in this episode, they could have really split the two up. People that watch the show are more than happy to have a slow episode to really focus on characters. And the fact we have basically an A story and a B story, with neither one clearly being the A story, it takes away some of the drama involved in it. I would have loved to have seen the whole episode just focusing on Bailey and Quinn and their process of trying to get back home and the stress that comes with it. There is a great sequence in the cold open that is very brutal, very harsh, but very real when it comes to wartime. And whether it is correct or not, that is never explored. It's very much open to our personal interpretations of the scene. But seeing these two bonding, having to go through a lengthy vetting process to make sure they are truly American soldiers and not just infiltrators, the stress of having to go through these enemy occupied territories with false papers to try and just get back into the fight. It's really well done. I just wish there was a bit more time focused on it because it does jump between the two plot threads quite frequently, and at times that can be a little bit jarring. This is following an episode where we lost Biddick and Babyface, so we have seen some characters that we know fall, and this episode deals with some of the ramifications of that. A stat that is given out early in the episode is that of the 35 forts that have flown over there, only 12 now remain. So that's 1/3 of the people that went over there in the original 100th, and we get some replacement bomber crews coming in. Our veterans that have been here for quite some time are very much over the casualness of the conversations and almost don't really get too close to the replacement crews. It is very reminiscent of the episode Replacements in Band of Brothers, where the veterans weren't open armed to the replacements because they just didn't want to see them get killed. So it was better to keep your distance than get close to them. Going into a couple more things with the episode as well, it is starting to really show that there's almost something missing from this series. Obviously, in the original episode, I talked about how we no longer have the veterans sat giving us a brief rundown of what is to come, and we don't have the text at the start of the episode or the end of the episode to really give us some historical context of what we're about to see and what we have seen. And I'm starting to feel like that is missing some stuff. It feels like we are losing a lot of the focus on this is the history versus this is a spectacle based in history. I know some people weren't happy that I hadn't done my ins and outs research on this show, but at the end of the day, I'm watching the show as a form of entertainment, as a gateway to the history involved. So once I've seen the whole show, I can go and chase up what was accurate, what was inaccurate, and basically go from there in the full series review. And this show doesn't really encourage the investigation stuff. And I felt the lack of titles in an episode as well is a little bit irritating to me. I know it's a small gripe, but the fact we're just having part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, there isn't any focus on what the episode is going to cover. Like episode 3 could have easily been called Schweinfurt Regensburg, but instead we get part 3 and we just have to watch the episode to see what is exactly going to be covered. It is a good episode and I like the themes on both sides of the two stories taking place, but it feels like as we've really got 9 episodes in this series, like we could have made a 10 episode series, had an episode just following Bailey and Quinn trying to get out of enemy occupied territory to get back to the men, and then have a whole episode focusing on the Flak Happy phrase and the stress that Egon is slowly starting to have come over him, and have them exchanges with the replacements, because it feels like, because we're cutting between the two, neither really gets an overwhelming focus, and therefore it's a struggle to get invested in them. And the characters, whilst they are starting to get fleshed out, we're nearly halfway through the show at this point. It seems like a lot of the characters come across as archetypes and boring, which is a shame, because when we think back to what the makers of these shows originally did with Band of Brothers, where we could tell exactly who Buck, Winters, Nixon, George Lurs, Carwood Lipton. We knew how these people tick. They had episodes focused around them. They had enough interactions with different people, so you really got a sense of who these people were as individuals. Whereas here, we're only getting really any full depth in the first 4 episodes after so much time has passed. Egon, I feel like I've got to know him a lot more just from this one episode of him going away and reflecting and just experiencing the London life than I have done the previous 3 episodes where I've seen him flying these missions. So that is a negative on my side. I will say it's still a good show so far, and I am still enjoying it. But I will say there are starting to be a few rhyming themes that are really pulling the show back in my estimates. That being said, though, the way the episode ends leaves me on the edge of my seat for episode 5. I'm going to have to say that episode 4 of Masters of the Air is a tea that needs more sugar. So, Masters of the Air episode 4, have you seen it? Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Can you offer any extra insight into the events depicted or the people involved? I would love to hear your thoughts. But until next time, everybody, my name is Josh, I am the Movie Apprentice, and I'll see you all in the next video.